So I just want to talk about the situation with Jordan Peterson chatting to 20 atheists on Jubilee's channel because I think that Christianity wasn't represented. Do you know what I mean? Uh, and I want to talk about that. Like the whole concept of the video was one Christian versus 20 atheists, but why can't somebody be brought on that represents the beliefs of Christianity or can defend the beliefs of Christianity? Do you know what I mean? Why is it somebody that didn't represent them well? And that's no disrespect to Jordan Peterson, but the beliefs weren't represented, and I just want to talk about that. Um, I think it's interesting. Uh, Going into the video, I didn't know. I, I mean, I was under the impression that he sees the Bible as more, like the whole thing is just a metaphor. So, like for example, the children of Israel coming out of Egypt apparently didn't really happen in history. Apparently, he would see it as a metaphor for us coming out of our old ways, our old way of living, and stuff like that. Now, this is something that people kind of uh, don't fully take on board regarding the how the Bible is prophetic. So the Bible can speak about a true, literal, historic event and still represent eternal, what Jordan Peterson would call meta truths, truths that transcend the time period that they were, recorded in. Do you know what I'm saying? So the story of Cain and Abel may still resonate with us today and still be something that actually happened. That's possible. It's not either or, it can be both. And do you know what I'm saying? So um yes, I mean, I believe it's true that the children of Israel had to relearn a lot of things, get through a lot of things when they came out of Egypt. And it's similar with people when they turn away from sin, that they're gonna have to renew their minds, come through a lot of things, and just be restored in that way. You could say it is prophetic, it is symbolic of what people go through when they leave their old life of sin, um, and follow God. But it doesn't mean that the stuff in there isn't historical unless it can be proven with, history and archaeology. Do you know what I'm saying? And this is a big deal because you've got somebody on the channel who's meant to represent Christianity. It does say in the video, one Christian versus 20 atheists. Do you know what I'm saying? So they're meant to represent the beliefs, and there's certain. I mean, there's one particular event in history that if it didn't happen and if it was made up, uh, Christianity kind of falls apart and it's kind of laughable. Do you know what I'm saying? It even says this in the Bible. Um, I mean, it says it this way. It says that, okay, let me highlight it. If Christ has not been raised from the dead, then our preaching is in vain and your faith is in vain, and we have found to be misrepresenting God. Uh, so the person who wrote this wrote quite a lot of the Old Testament. So he literally said, if Christ didn't rise from the dead, we're misrepresenting God. It's a big deal. Um, and it's also a big deal because Jesus predicted his own death and resurrection. So he said that, where do I find it? There we go. So Second John, Jesus says, destroy this temple and in 3 days I will raise it up. And the Jews said to him, it has taken us 46 years to build a temple, and will you raise it up in 3 days? But he was speaking about the temple of his body. So he says he's going to rise it up in 3 days. This is the second chapter that John writes in his book. So imagine opening the book and in the second chapter you write, um, the person you're writing about claims they're gonna die and rise from the dead. If that person doesn't rise from the dead, the whole book is pretty laughable. Do you know what I'm saying? The whole belief is pretty like laughable. So there's another one here where he predicts it. Um, so he says the Son of Man is to be delivered to the hands of men. They will kill him and he will be raised on the third day. So imagine writing all of these things and the guy you're writing about dies and stays in the ground and that's it. He's just there. His bones are just there, and it's an historical fact that he died and he stayed there, and that's it. Like it's like how can you trust Christ when he says, I will be raised on the third day if he didn't do that? Do you get what I'm saying? So like situations like that, you would have to state if you believe that's an historical fact or not to really know if you truly believe in Christianity. And I really appreciate the lady at the end who brought up this exact point. And Jordan Peterson said he wasn't able to uh I think he was saying that's beyond his knowledge set and he wasn't able to defend it. And I do appreciate the honesty, but um it is a big part of the belief. Like if he didn't rise from the dead, then we're just talking about someone who may or may not be a prophet, who may or may not be God in the flesh. Do you know what I mean? Who may or may not be trusted, considering what the considering that he says he will raise it up, considering that he gave a promise. Do you know what I mean? Um, Now, if Jordan Peterson is personally unsure about it, and doesn't want to fully say I believe it, I understand that. I respect that. Um, I respect that. But how do I say it? That kind of means you're on a journey. Maybe you're not a Christian yet, but you're on a journey. Do you know what I'm saying? And there's nothing wrong with being on a journey. It's good to have people around you can talk to. So hopefully Jordan Peterson has that. And I do hear how strongly he takes the word belief. Like if he says if you believe something, you're willing to die for it. Now, the people who said they were eyewitnesses who saw Jesus, many of them died for that belief because they believed they saw Christ and they weren't gonna deny him after that. Do you know what I'm saying? Imagine somebody giving all these prophecies. Imagine somebody's prophesied, been spoken about for hundreds of years, comes in the flesh, fulfills the prophecies, and says, I'm gonna die and rise again. Mate, you're gonna do whatever he says. Like this guy has the words of eternal life. Do you know what I'm saying? So like death wasn't really like the same person who wrote that verse I quoted is the same person who would write things like to die is to live is Christ, to die is gain. Like death wasn't that deep because they they knew someone who resurrected, overcame death. And it's like you don't act like that unless you truly believe it. So I do understand how Jordan Peterson may think faith is something you would stake your life on. Um but I think it's important to take our definition of faith from like the Bible. So in James 2, really good book in general, but in James 2 it says something very interesting. Um he pretty much says that faith and action goes together. So um Yeah. So he says, I will show you my faith by my works. And he says that you believe that God is one, and I mean, you do well for doing that. And he also says the demons believe and shudder. Some translations say the demons believe and tremble. So it's like, it's good to believe in God, but even the demons believe in God and they tremble, but they're not they're not living for God. They're not treating God like he deserves to be treated. They're not responding to God's beauty in a reasonable way. They're not responding to God's mercy in a reasonable way. Do you know what I'm saying? So faith is linked to action. So I have faith in this camera. I have faith that this camera isn't gonna blow up and die. Do you know what I'm saying? Randomly throughout the shoot. I've got faith in that and I'm putting action behind that by recording this video. If I truly believe that somebody died and rose again in order to take the punishment for my sins upon himself, that's going to change how I act. And that is true faith according to the Bible. Um, so I understand the belief that if you believe in something, you're willing to die for it, but like, it depends on the circumstance. If it's like somebody gets forced to deny Christ or die and they've walked face to face with the person and, you know, they know the tube is empty because they were there and they saw him on the cross. That's very different. They're gonna be willing to die, and we can see in history that they were. Do you know what I'm saying? Um, but to compare that to every single belief, I uh I don't really think you need to do that. I think belief is just acting. I think true belief is just acting on what you believe in, and that's really it. And there are a lot of people out there that say they believe in God, but like they don't act on it. Do you get what I'm saying? They don't act like he's real, like he's really beautiful, and he really chose to die for us. Do you know what I'm saying? Um, yeah. Um, so here's something I want to read. It says that Jesus appeared to more than 500 people at the time, many who are still alive at the time of writing this, and many who are falling asleep. Uh, Back in those days, they would say you're falling asleep when you die. Basically, that's just a poet. That's just a way of saying they've died. So there was 500 people alive, according to this author. There was 500 people alive when this was written. There's certain things in the Bible you can't just be like, oh, it's a metaphor. He's saying there were 500 witnesses that Jesus rose from the dead, and this is key because if he didn't, it means the other stuff Jesus said is a bit of a joke, and it means that why would you take him seriously? Do you know what I mean? So you can't just there are symbolisms in the Bible. Do you know what I'm saying? And we can talk about that maybe in a separate video, but like we can't say the whole, we can't just how do I say it, uh just turn the whole thing into a metaphor when the Bible's making claims that 500 people saw him and he rose from the dead. Do you know what I mean? um does that make sense? So that's my opinion on it. um I think he's close, but they really need to bring someone on the show who can represent the beliefs of Christianity. But honestly, most people don't truly know Christianity anyway. So I kind of understand why this has happened. But at the same time, we do need someone who can represent it well. Do you get what I'm saying? Because anyway, anyway, I need to finish the recording now. We'll leave it there for now.